Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant, John Solleder. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
Hey, my pleasure today to interview an industry icon, very successful guy, veteran, technologist, et cetera, an all-around great guy, Mr. Patrick Shaw. How are you today, Patrick?
John, I am doing fantastic. It's great to be on your show, man.
Well, it's my honor and privilege. And, let's just start at the top. How long have you been in the industry and how did you get introduced?
It's just another one of those rags to riches. I was 25 years ago. I got introduced to the industry. I read Napoleon Hill's book. I love personal development. I failed the fourth grade a couple times, severely dyslexic. And I had a teacher, a mentor, Sister Ann Rita Mock, who introduced me to this idea that I had a gift in dyslexia when I was a little kid, 4 years old. Fourth grade. And she just made me believe that our identity really mattered, that other people's opinion didn't matter. And so I was naturally attracted to network marketing. When it came along and I saw this opportunity that you could become more, do more, have more, right? And your mindset, because of what I'd gone through education, I just fell in love with the industry immediately. And that was that. And I was off and running.
Now, what changes have you seen in 25 years? That's a long time. So let's see. Now, what are we talking? 1998, 97, something like that?
As a builder, being in the field and understanding really early that prospecting and follow-up is the key. It's the number of people you talk to and the consistency and quality of the follow-up. That was always my focus in building. And the biggest change, single change, now I'm a little biased because of what we do with technology with RapidFunnel, but the biggest change I've seen is duplication, simplicity, and authenticity has become incredibly difficult. Everybody is trying to hide behind technology, and all the tools have made it very difficult to create momentum and duplication. And when I started, like you, John, we had a VHS tape, a fax, a phone, and a meeting. There was nothing else. There was no internet. You had a fax, you had a phone, you had a meeting to go to, and that was it. And so teaching new people was simple. And it didn't matter what order you use those things in. You could teach all three of it. You could teach everybody. And then complexity has created problems. I think they can be solved, but you got to be savvy about it.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because you also are heavily involved in technology for the direct selling industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've come up with some simplified ways to use technology. So let's talk about RapidFunnel. Tell everybody what it is, how they can get it, how it works, anything else that you want to share.
Yeah, and I love talking about it, obviously, Sean. So thank you. But look, we all have a phone. We don't leave the house without it. You might forget to wear your underwear, but you are going to walk out the door with that telephone. And if you forgot it, you're going to go right back in and get it, or drive 20 miles back home to get it. Whatever. And so I think every company, because it's made up of part-time people, the vast majority are part-time, they need a mobile first strategy. It needs to be on their phone. They need to be able to prospect and follow up quickly and simply. And second is it's got to be simple. And today, surveys really work. But do you want to sign up for SurveyMonkey and build your own surveys? ClickFunnels is a fantastic platform, but are you really a marketer? Do you know how to create your own capture pages? You should have a CRM. But are you going to pay for whose CRM are you going to pay for? Salesforce is $100 a month. Where do you start that process? You should deliver emails. You should build a database of your own that you own the list, and you should email them. And you're going to sign up for Constant Contact and pay for that. And now, how are you going to get all these systems to talk to each other? Right? Well, that's enormous amount of complexity. You need to be a digital marketer almost to make these tools work. And then the biggest problem is you can't tell your team you did it because none of them can do it either. And so we simply took all of those tools, we put it in one platform, we partner with the top leader or company, we build everything out, and we deliver in the phone or on a desktop, but we deliver a single platform with everything pre-built and personalized to each individual distributor. And it just becomes a game changer. They double the quantity and quality of the exposures they make, and we can prove it. And so it's been a blast. That's pretty much, we call it authentic sharing technology.
Now, how do they get information on it?
They just go to rapidfunnel.com, just to the website. I'll give out my information at the end of the call, but it's patrick.shaw@rapidfunnel.com. They can reach out to me and we'll get you in touch with the right people.
Right. And it's all generic and it's being used by a lot of companies with some great success. And, once again, thank you for doing that. Because, you saw a need in the marketplace, not just for, your distributors and your particular company, but, once again, just like the spirit of doing this podcast, hey, we're all in business to help each other. There's plenty of business out there for all of us,
Well, and I was just trying to solve my own problem. I mean, I had no thoughts or ideas or visions of building a company in this industry. I was just trying to help my own organization succeed. And that was a decade ago. And the rest of it kind of came pretty automatically.
Yeah, and you're so right on what you're saying though, because you've got TikTok, right? You've got LinkedIn, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got the other 17 guys who are starting companies like that. And what do you want? And then of course a couple of years ago we had the whole political divide of some of these things are favor one political party over the other in the United States. So then everybody went out and got on these new technologies that only some people are on, and then it matters what party you vote for. It's crazy.
Yeah, and the distributors have to use these platforms, and that's not going to go away. Like, you got to use TikTok or Facebook. You don't have to use any one of them, but you're going to recruit people that are savvy on one or the other or multiple. You can't tell them not to use those platforms, but what you have to be able to do is give them the resources, the capture pages, landing pages, surveys, to post on those platforms, to leverage those platforms, use those platforms, but don't let those platforms use you. And what I mean is, Facebook sells advertising. And when you build rapport with a prospect on one of those platforms, the very first thing that Facebook does is they sell advertising to your closest competitor for the very interest that you generated with your prospect. The thing that pops up on YouTube or Facebook or whatever is a competitor's product, and Facebook often knows more about your prospect than you do. And it's such a slippery slope. So we say, look, use them all, but get that data out of that platform into your private platform. And then multiply that through your whole organization. That becomes a game changer, but people don't even realize this is happening. A prospect disappears. They don't know what happens. The prospect's not going to call you and go, hey, John, I saw this ad on YouTube. It looked better than your product and it was cheaper, so I just bought it. But thanks so much for educating me.
Exactly.
They don't even tell you.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Well, what you did is you kind of found a way to be a game changer, because beat the proverbial system of how these social media companies make all this money and use it for your needs as a business person, rather than the very wealthy owners of some of the companies that we mentioned here. And we appreciate those guys being in business because their stuff's free. But at the end of the day, to your point, I don't want to send somebody to my competitor. I want them on my team, obviously. So let's talk.
And you should own your database. Yeah.
Exactly.
As a professional networker, you should own your contacts, names, phone numbers, emails. You might switch companies one day. You never know what happens, but if you're a professional networker, you should own that database.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree more. So let's talk about that a little bit. The industry, and let me just kind of set this up, Patrick, for our listeners.
Yeah.
The industry, as you and I know, the last few years have been challenging. I think that word would probably cover it all. Not only in our industry, but in the world of business, right? And let's just say that we had a neighbor of yours, right? 25-year-old kid. Now he's 25. He got out of college. He went to work. He was doing well. He was advancing through whatever company he was working for. And then all of a sudden, we know what happened in February about 3 years ago, right? Little thing called COVID came along. And all of a sudden, that career, the brakes got kind of put on it. And his dad, who's 60-ish, kind of was on the other end of the spectrum. He was at that point where, he was looking at what golf clubs to buy or what new fishing pole and starting to think about all the free time he was going to have to, do those type of pursuits, play with the grandkids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden, we know what happened. And Dad did well. Dad was a successful business guy, but never put away enough money to call it quits. And all of a sudden, February 2020 happens, the world changes. Maybe his income is 50% of what it was. Maybe it's 25%. Maybe it's gone completely. Who knows? And they've been watching you now for these last couple of years. And they're like, Patrick gets to work from home. We see him out, getting the mail at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I mean, how come he gets to do that and we don't? Well, he's in one of those network marketing businesses. And they always looked at that and they were kind of like, ha ha, he does that kind of stuff, right? And all of a sudden now, 3 years later, Dad and the son are talking this afternoon and they say, you know what? Patrick's got something figured out that we need to at least find out about how it works. And they come down and they knock on your door. You're gracious enough to say, hey, fellas, come on in. Let's have a cup of coffee together. And what's on your mind? What do you tell them about our industry that incentivizes them to get involved?
I probably tell them that they've got to do their due diligence, and there's more wolves in sheep clothes than they might realize, right? But I would tell them that's true of almost every industry. In the failure rate in almost every industry, whether you went to school to be a teacher, you got your real estate or insurance license, you look at the number of people that succeed, and it's far smaller than anybody fathoms. So look, you can fail in anything, you can succeed in a lot of things, find a good company, but then I'd tell them the greatest benefit to this industry is who you become in the process. It's the old gym room stuff. And I just think this is a feeding ground. It's fertile soil for people that are aspiring to be more, to learn a set of skills, whether that be sales skills, even though we don't use that word in network marketing. Ultimately, you're learning to sell. You're learning to communicate. If you're a good student, you're learning grit, tenacity, persistence, a set of skills that will serve you in every industry in the world. I am the least likely guy to be a SaaS founder, right, of a technology company. I can't read a line of code, dyslexic, failed the 4th grade twice. My kid goes to Stanford because of the philosophy she was taught when she was young, but they weren't going to let me into that place, right? But that's where most SaaS founders are. And I learned almost all those skills in network marketing. So, maybe that's not as sexy as, hey, you're going to make a fortune. But the reality is that wasn't the greatest gift I got from the industry. It was what I learned in the process. So kind of cliche, but it is what it is.
Well, that's amazing. Well, they will let you into Stanford once a year when you bring your checkbook and pay tuition, right?
I go visit all the time, man. It's an incredible place. I go watch her swim, and I feel like I'm a student there. I mean, I'm going vicariously through my daughter.
I've only been on that campus once, but yeah, it is absolutely beautiful up there too.
Yeah,
it's just
fun.
a nice place to walk around. So let's talk about that a little bit more, because you are a student of self-development. I mean, that's how you are here today, and how you've done all the amazing things that you are doing and will continue to do. Let's talk about that a little bit. How important is that to you?
Oh, listen, it's everything. I mean, Yeah, I mean, what else is there, right? I mean, ultimately, the growth mindset, what Carol Dweck wrote about in Mindset, just that breaking book is, we either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, and we're trying to get better and learn more, do more, be more, have more every single day in every way, personally, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. That's the beautiful part about this life is we really get, I mean, I love this time of year. We're just getting past the new year, and it's my favorite time because it doesn't matter what happened last year, right? You get this white clean slate piece of paper, right? This canvas, and you get to dream up what you can do, be, and have. And we live in, for most everybody listening to this, you live in a free country, you have flexibility, freedom, and the one thing that is going to dictate the level of your success is mindset, the choices you make, the information that you choose to allow in. Are you going to sit around, no offense to Netflix, but are you going to binge watch the next thing? Or are you going to be the keeper of the guardian of the gate of the most powerful tool on planet Earth? And it's the human mind. And every one of us has one, and we can choose. It's our prerogative to decide, how are we going to leverage it, with a long crowbar or a short one? Are we going to let society dictate what we think and believe, right? Our parents, our associations, the books we don't read, the Netflix series we do watch, or are we going to choose something grander?
Love it. Great answer. Great answer.
Yeah.
And along those lines, you mentioned, I guess you was a nun earlier, as I guess your first mentor back in fourth grade. Talk about your mentors a little bit. How important are mentors?
Well, my mom was my first one, 7 kids, built a chain of health food stores in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and she'd drive around in a car. My dad was alcoholic, committed suicide, so not a great just not there. Was a good guy, but just misguided. And my mom just busted her butt, and she'd drive around listening to Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Mark Victor Hansen, Dennis Waitley, and for a kid with so many learning challenges, I was looking for hope. Just give me something to hold on to. And so that adversity combined with the positive information, it set a really good stage. I just needed to find a place to apply it, which is network marketing offered. But she was the first, and then Sister Ann Rita Mock. My mom always told me I'd be fine, but I'm going to school and they're putting me in edukally mentally challenged chat classes and all this jazz. And I go to DePaul summer program in Louisville, Kentucky. And where Sister Ann Rita Mock started this summer program for kids with dyslexia. And she saw a huge need. She was a school teacher in a Catholic school, and she saw these kids that kept coming through that, probably were going to end up in jail because they didn't fit into the system at all. And she realized they did have a gift. And when I sat on that floor, I mean, the biggest thing in retrospect I learned is that what we believe, the story we tell ourselves about ourselves, is the single most important story we will ever hear in life. It's what do we believe about ourselves? And she changed the story I told myself. I wasn't going to be okay. I had dyslexia. I could battle through it. I could solve it. She said, you have a gift, right? She turned it on its head. It wasn't, you'll survive. It'll be okay. You'll make it through. It's like, you actually have a gift, right? And she turned this negative into a complete positive. And she gave me examples of it. Muhammad Ali right there in her backyard in Louisville, right? And she gave one example after another. And I've seen all those, my entire life of extremely, but it's the story I told myself, right? I don't even know if some of the stuff she told me was true, but I mean, I can look back and go, I wonder if that part was true. But man, she believed it, and she caused us to believe it as kids, and it changed our lives, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Love it. That's a great story. Did she live long enough? Was she still alive, or did she live long enough to see you?
She passed just a few years ago, and I put my whole speech together and went and spoke at DePaul for a massive fundraiser they had as the keynote. And I put this whole list of notes together, and I won't lie to you, John, I got to that podium. And now, in networking, I mean, I've presented to hundreds of thousands of people, stood in rooms of 10,000. I mean, you know the deal. And I got in front of that room, dude, and my entire presentation went out the window, and I was laughing and crying, and it was a very emotional experience just being back there just after her passing. Yeah, just a few years back.
I bet. But she had a chance to see you become.
She did.
Wow, great. That's asking. Let's talk about some of the challenges today, because let's face it. If you're listening to this show, the world has challenges, the economy has challenges, network marketing has challenges, and challenges are nothing new. How we handle challenges is what's new. So let's talk about that a little bit, Patrick. Some of the challenges that you see 2023 going forward, maybe that are unique to this generation of distributors as opposed to where you and I started way back. What do you see as the challenges? And most importantly, when we identify the challenge, let's also identify the fire escape, so to speak, to deal with those challenges.
Well, I think the first thing to acknowledge what you've already said is there are opportunities there, right? And, in every adversity is the seed of greater or equivalent good, as Napoleon Hill said. And it is so like literally owning that and saying, okay, in every adversity is the seed of greater or at least equivalent good. So whatever the problem is, whatever the size of that problem is, at a minimum, there's the equivalent good. But it depends on your perception of what you do with it. The music industry was dead when Napster came out and they started selling music on Spotify. And now there's all of a sudden there's this breed of musicians that are going, hey, I can post my own music. I can build my own audience. I can not only charge for my music, I can keep 100% of it if I want to, and I'm willing to do the work in a few other areas besides just playing the music to have more power than I've ever had before. But there were a lot of people that said, oh, it's dead. Like the music industry, music rights, commissions, that's all over. Well, it turned out to be the exact opposite, right? You look at the NCAA, they're so worried about these kids that jump out of college and go pro too early. And now all of a sudden, the NCAA loses their court thing, the name, image, and likeness, the NIL comes around. Some of these kids are making more money in college than they can make as professional athletes. Now, I know there's downsides, but there's also tremendous upsides. And it also prevents some of these kids from having to go pro. They're like, hey, I'm better off at Duke playing ball in college. I'll make more than I might in the NBA, right? I mean, it's crazy how in all of these, there's a seed of greater or equivalent good. It doesn't mean it'll be better for everybody all the time. But anyway, I'm getting off on the personal development front. And the opportunities, I think the biggest problems that exist in the industry is people are jumping around too much, is that companies don't understand who the customer is, and the customer is the distributor. And if you violate trust with that distributor, you don't have a business. Now, the end consumer really, really matters, but the company better appreciate that the distributor matters and treat them with the trust that is commensurate with real success. You can't violate the trust of the distributor base. My podcast with the gentleman who was with Melaleuca way back in the day. And we were talking about, I know I'm not supposed to mention, I forgot individual companies, but there's good, I don't have any affiliation there, but there's good old solid companies that are still figuring out how to slow down to speed up. They're not trying to say this isn't get rich quick. They're not seeing waves of distributors come in and out and jump from company to company. And I think, values and principles and purpose are things that really matter. And I think most of the challenges can be offset if we would just slow down and say, am I here for a real long-term play? But Brian Tracy said people underestimate what they can accomplish in a short period of time, a long period of time, and overestimate what they can accomplish in a short period of time. And compounding really applies to networking. And if we can find a solid place to build and we can do it right, still with the sense of urgency and enthusiasm, but we can build for the long haul. I think most of the crazy things that are going on today in the industry, if we apply that purpose, values, goals filter to finding a company, working in the company, growing our team, I think most of those challenges can be offset, if that makes sense.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll add to that, and I'd love your thoughts on it. And boy, I couldn't agree more, frankly. But I hear, we all know the hitter syndrome, right? The guys who, term themselves as big hitters in the industry. And they're at company A this year. 2 years from now, company A was no good. So they're company B. Now, company A may still be in business, may still be doing well, maybe consistent sales, recruiting, etc. But it's, for whatever reason, it's no good. And then, 2 years later, they're somewhere else. And they term themselves as hitters. And they brand themselves as such on the internet. And, people believe that they're special. And some of them are skilled, and some of them are talented, no doubt. They're good at self-promotion, no doubt. But the funny part is, and you and I have talked about this off camera, and we've talked about this on your podcast, the real hitters in this industry are the guys like us who stay at a company forever and keep building and building and building and go through all the seesaw or roller coaster or whatever and stick with it, as long as you've got a tangible product and a decent pay plan where people will stay. People will come and go all the time. But that to me is the secret sauce. When I think of some of the guys that I know in the industry that have been at companies, I'm going to violate my own rule and name companies, so I won't. But they've been at the a couple of the companies in Utah, for example, or one in Southern California, for example, where they've been there 25 to 40 years. People don't know their names because they haven't gone out and been at 14 other companies. They've been there, they've built, they've gone through all the ups and downs in life, right? Because you got life as a distributor as well as life as a distributor within companies, within the things that happen within companies, economies, etc. Those are the real hitters in our industry, and some of them are extremely wealthy people, and yet they're not household words in network marketing. Those are the guys that have my respect. It's the guys that have done that, like yourself at your company, for example. You've gone through the good, the bad, the ugly. You're still there. You're still leading. You're still doing great things. So let's talk about that a little bit. What's the future look like? What do you got planned in 2023 and beyond?
A lot of my energy is in the rapid funnel side of things, of building our company. And I get excited about, finding really solid companies that we can help take it to the next level through prospecting and follow-up activities. I learned early on, I had a good sponsor, and you'll relate to this, John, because you know this stuff inside now. But, I was complaining about my success, my results, and the traction I was getting. I'm 6 months into the business, and my sponsor says, fax me your tracking sheet. And I'm like, well, what's that? And he introduces me to a 10-line piece of paper with my prospects' names and how many follow-ups I've made. And so the next time I complain, he says, fax me your tracking sheet. And there were 10 lines to the sheet. It took 5 minutes to make an exposure. I told him I was working 20 hours a week, and I had 10 names on the sheet. So I do the math. I'm like, well, 10 names, 5 minutes, that's 50 minutes. I told him I'm working 20 hours a week. If I fax him this sheet, he's going to ask me where the other 19 hours and 10 minutes went, And that was my introduction and understanding that, okay, there's a lot to learn. But really, when you all boil it down, you got to talk to somebody new every day, and you've got to follow up. And so I'm excited about the fact that with technology properly built, gamification, driving human behavior, the relationship is paramount in network marketing, that we are helping some of the fastest growing leaders double the speed in which they can get their team story told, that they can teach brand new people to create momentum and duplication. And I enjoy it. I mean, it's still the favorite part of my business is when we roll out a new company and I get on that launch call and we introduce all those distributors to a way that they can double the number of exposures they're making, and they can do it in half the time. And their minds are just blown up. They're like, oh my gosh, you mean I don't have to go sign up for all this stuff? You mean I can we just partnered. Ray Higdon's doing some stuff with us, and he just launched his platform, and he had one person post a survey to social media that he didn't have to create. He didn't have to write it, but all the data came back to him. He posts this gig economy survey to social media, generates 300 qualified leads, name, phone number, and email, posting one survey to social that asked people their thoughts around the gig economy. Right now, how do you think that that person was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, but a really well-written survey, right? That's problem aware. It's not pitching a product. It's not asking people to buy, sell, or join. And it was pre-built for this guy. His name is Lawrence. And Lawrence just posted it to show social, and bam, there's just nothing more fun than to see people in their current business all of a sudden get introduced to a better way to build a business that's simpler and more fun,
Yep. Exactly. So let's in wrapping up a couple of things here. Let me do my ad so my wife doesn't get mad at me. Of course, I have the wrong books on my desk, but I'm the author of Moving Up 2020. If you don't know me, this was an Amazon bestseller, available of course in Spanish also, and also available in Spanish. The name of my podcast, Leave Nothing to Chance. And in all those books, everything that we just talked about is there, including about technology. And Patrick, you and I laughed about this on a prior podcast, right? This is where I started my company in 1997. Was on this little cassette tape, and here's
something. And you probably only had one version of that.
I had one version. I had the title on it, and here's the funny part. So my son, who's now 19, just turned 19 a couple weeks ago. He was cleaning the garage about 3 years ago, and he comes in the house and he says, "Dad, what is this?" And I'm like, "Oh." So I start giving him the sales pitch about, well, this is when I left this company and I went to the company.
Like, no, what is this?
Right. He's like, what is this? And I had all of a sudden I got to the bottom line of, he was asking, what does this thing do? I've never seen one of these before.
It's a cassette tape, son.
And that's only 25 years ago. But of course, he wasn't born, right? And you think about where technology has evolved to. So my last question for you, let's talk a little bit more about RapidFunnel, so the listeners get their head around it, how available it is, that there's not a big cost to it, if I'm correct. I mean, it's
well, technically there is. So we only work with really leaders, John. So a leader in a company has to come to us and say, hey, I'm going to write a significant check and I want this whole thing built out for my team. Now, what the team receives is they're all going to have access to a standard version that's completely free. They don't even have to think about it. Don't put in $1. Don't do anything. There's no paywall. Yeah. They've got access. So technically the leader is going to write a check, though. One time we're going to spend 6 weeks, build everything out, and then we're going to help that leader go crush it. But our technology, without really personalized content built for each person in that company, is not as meaningful. Yeah.
Got it. And to contact you, once again, give your contact information. We'll have it in the show notes too, of course, folks. So if you don't hear it right here, right, or you write it down wrong, just go to the show notes. We'll make sure that it's in there as well. But give your information, Patrick, because I think you're onto something here that's going to be, I know it's huge, but it's going to be much larger in the years to come.
I think we're getting there, John. We're excited about it, but it's patrick.shaw@rapidfunnel.com. Or you can look up Authentic Sharing Technology, or just go right to the website at rapidfunnel.com. Thanks so much, John.
Well, Patrick, it's been a pleasure as always. Always love talking to you. I always learn so much when we talk, because you are one of the guys I talk to when it comes to technology that educate me all the time. And I still have a lot to learn. I'm still living in the dark ages to some degree. But that same 19-year-old son, by the way, has become one of the top retailers in my downline every single month. And I have distributors our age, well, my age, I'm older than you, but guys my age call me up. They're like, how is he doing what he's doing? Little bugger won't tell me. I have no idea what he's doing. He does something. All these people keep showing up and buying products, so I'm not going to complain it's an upline, but he won't tell me what he's doing. But that's the secret sauce too, I think. Love your thoughts on that, of having all these Gen Xers and Gen Zers look at our industry, is that they bring a different set of eyes than somebody, my age or older does.
Well, I think that's one of those in every adversity, right? I mean, we're moving into an age where networking companies, if they're smart, need to be, offer a retail selling opportunity. They need to allow affiliate partners to participate in a piece of the compensation plan that the networker operates in. But the networker can go get an affiliate partner or a retail seller only. And that retail seller doesn't have to work through all the lineages or downline, but everybody can benefit. So it's a hybrid almost. And I think meeting the market where the market is important for every leader and every company that exists out there. And things are changing. They're moving fast. You held up that cassette tape, John. I mean, you're one of the good guys. You built it right, fundamentally sound principles. But you look, that cassette tape so quickly went to CDs, and then nobody even knows what a CD is, right? And it went directly to the internet and video, and all the things that are happening. Change is the one constant today, and it is moving really, really fast. And we have to figure out how to adapt to that properly. So yeah, but it's always exciting talking to you, John. I mean, you've been around the block, and the more we both learn, the more we realize we don't know that much. I think, right?
That's the scary part. That
Yeah.
really is the scary part, is what we don't know. But and to that point, it's like my son tells me Facebook's for old people, and I'm like, well, I love Facebook, but to somebody his age, that's already outdated technology through his set of eyes. And to that point, it's evolving, but it's evolving so well. I think about WhatsApp, for example, and I deal with a lot of Latin distributors in my organization that are in Ecuador and Peru and
Yeah.
all over the Latin countries, and you can't tell those people email you. They will tell you, what's your WhatsApp phone number, and we will WhatsApp, and you'll get a WhatsApp message from them a lot quicker than you're ever going to get a response to an email, as an example. Now, I don't have a lot of Asian business at this point, but I understand Japan, Hong Kong, Philippines, Taiwan, etc. A lot of great countries for network marketing that my company, unfortunately, is not in yet. They use, I think it's called WeChat over there, and same
Yeah.
thing. So once again,
Telegram, Signal, I mean, the list
Yeah.
goes on, and you just have to be able to adjust to what the receiver basically is using, or what your world, your ecosystem is. I mean, I tell you what's fascinating today is, I don't know if you played with Chat GPT at all, John.
I don't even know what that is, so educate me.
Hey, go to, I bet a lot of your listeners do, but Chat GPT is this new AI platform. It's the evolution, if you will, of Google. But there are so many insane Listen, I needed an NDA for something the other day. I went to chatgpt.ai, I think or .openai. Just type in ChatGPT. You'll find it. I'll show it to you after the show. We'll take a second. I'll show it to you. It's crazy. But you can type in anything. It'll write an essay for you. It'll create surveys. And then you can clean it up. But it's just extraordinary what AI is doing. And I was writing down a whole series, 10 different platforms the other day: Flare.ai, Humantic.ai, StockIMG.ai. If you need images, it's just crazy what these platforms are doing. And you just type in what you want, and AI is gathering it all and presenting it to you, whether it's images, it's short text, it's long copy. AI is changing the world, and it's going to have an impact on network marketing too. And we're leveraging it in a lot of ways from a tech company side.
Exactly. Well, the world's changing. It's changing, I think, for the better. I think, if anything good came of COVID, I think it's all of us realize we really can work from home, which was always a joke, right? I know you and I've laughed about that in the past, right? Hey, I work from home. Come to the Holiday Inn Tuesday night to see my meeting. And the person goes, I thought you worked from home. Right? Well, where now we really do work from home because of Zoom and all the other technologies that exist, to all of these points. So it's just amazing the world we're living in and how quickly it is evolving. And, people like RapidFunnel, your company, are leading that charge to simplify it for those of us that are a little behind the technology 8 ball, but know the necessity of having the ability to use it nonetheless. Just like, I don't understand the way that my car works, but I want to understand that the engineer that built the engine, that he understood how it worked. Kind of the same process.
Exactly. Yep.
Exactly. Well, Patrick, this has been a pleasure, my friend, as always, and we need to do it again. And we shut this off, and we'll chat a few minutes.
Thanks so much, John. Great being with you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solleder, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.